students, welcome to the series on advertising and sales promotion. Today we are going to study the impact of advertising on society. In this we will basically cover the advertising impact in terms of positive and negative both. The kind of ethical environment required to promote advertising as an ideal business is essential. So these aspects will be covered in this module. Now according to Bruce, as a profession advertising is young. As a force it is as old as the world. The first 4 words ever uttered, "Let there be light," constitutes its charter. All nature is vibrant with its impulse. So advertising is a beautiful business carrying genuinely the peoples and the societies together in terms where civilizations grow in a kind of a progressive and a beautiful way. According to Sir Winston, advertising nourishes the consumer power of man. It sets up before man the goal of better home, better clothing, better food for himself and his family. It spurs individual excursion and a kind of a greater production. So advertising is a kind of a force which genuinely promotes people to lead a better kind of a life with better standards in term. It gives a dream and a vision to constitute better life with better beauties. There is something as a kind of a quality in advertising business which promotes it in terms to the media. The impact on business is immense. The impact on consuming power is also immense. There is something of a paralytic quality about advertising. It feeds on the organisms of non-commercial culture, the cultures of past and present, ideologies and myths, political and customs, art and architecture, literature and music, and even its religion. For example, women are commodified to sell everything from cars to cologne. Advertising pimps up the products. So it is essential that advertising as a kind of a force promotes business, it carries products, it carries societies together. The kind of demand which is created in the market is generated by the beautiful force of advertising. According to Calvin, mass demand has been created almost entirely through the development of advertising. Now it is a beautiful business where you extend the societal growth in terms of economic and social aspects also. The kind of growth related to product, related to consumer items and to business has been genuinely catalyzed by the force of advertising. According to Michael, expensive, well-educated and familiar ads convince the investors. As nothing in the black and white tables of the assets and the debits can, the company is important and prosperous. So, the assets and the debits of the company in terms where you reflect the kind of the balance sheets or the kind of the table and the structures cannot attract people. But it is the beautiful advertising and the sophisticated advertising which incurs a kind of a faith in the minds of the consumers to invest money. Advertising is a faith building business. It is a kind of a business where trust is created. A kind of bond is created between the consumers and the production houses. According to Mark Twain, many a small thing has been made large by the right kind of advertising. So a small idea can be promoted and can become a revolution if right advertising is genuinely supporting these ideas. Ideas are important in terms to create businesses and to create enterprises. Small things have been converted into big empires, generating employment for millions of people. This is the power and the force of advertising. Now let's study the kind of the regulations related to advertising impacting the society. The basic regulations impacting the society in terms of advertising relate to trademark and to copyright. The basic approach that it is a commercial kind of a business where commercial speech is important and only truthful commercial speech will be sold in the market. It has to be lawful and it has to be legal in order to protect the products and brands and ideas. The regulation is important in terms because it is supported by the kind of the basic truth associated. Deceptive advertising is not accepted by society and any false claim genuinely conveyed by advertising will be rejected by society. We have the remedies for the deception and unfair advertising where genuinely the kind of the bodies are there and the kind of the regulating agencies are there, where we have the kind of courts also who redress these kinds of basic issues and unfair issues related to advertising. In any case, media is important and genuinely it is not the media that is wanting advertising, but it is advertising who is wanting media. So this power of advertising which is promoting the business of media impacts the society in a way where change becomes important. Now the media attempts to regulate advertising by screening and rejecting the kinds of ads. So it is accepting only those ads which is creating a kind of a positive impact on the society. The kind of the basic amendment which is related to the kind of the publications in terms is related to the Media Act, where the media can refuse to publish any advertisement which is not in accordance to their reputation. The Advertising Review Council designed the standards and guidelines used by the major television networks. So, we have a set of guidelines where we regulate the force of advertising impacting the society. But in any case, advertising is a kind of a self-disciplined kind of a business where you have to decide the kinds of norms and issues related. The power of genuinely taking the ads to the society cannot be legal in terms. If it is legal, genuinely it has to follow certain kinds of norms, because the legal issues cannot cover everything related to values and issues of the societies. So, it has to be self-regulated in order to promote the society in terms where the force has to create a kind of a genuine feeling of acceptance. The kind of the basic elements related to the advertising is associated to the kind of the regulations impacted from inside and outside agencies also. These agencies do promote a kind of advertising ethics. Now, the ethics is a set of moral principles that guide the actions and create a sense of responsible behavior. The basic issues of ethics related to advertising relate to the kind where you have to genuinely relate that advertising has to be of good taste. Now, poor taste and offensive advertising is genuinely not required by society. Stereotyping, body and self-image, targeting children, misleading claims and controversial products do create a kind of a controversy and issue related. See, the advertising ethics are a kind of important issues which generally promote the quality of the advertisement. Poor taste by the advertisers is offense for the society. Now, you cannot define poor taste or good taste, but genuinely the shocking advertisement in terms of the nude bodies or the sex regulating issues concerned to the society do create a kind of a negative impact on the society. So, we have to create a guideline where the good taste is reflected through the artistic creation of the human expressions. The reinforcing stereotypes, like you have the diversity issues in terms of gender issues, you have the racial and the ethnic issues, the caste issues, the senior citizens issues, these have to be rightly portrayed. Any kind of negative respect or any kind of negative issue and a jealousy feeling genuinely impacts the kind of the rhythm of the society. The self-image of the society has to be portrayed in a good sense and a discipline. Self-image of advertising can be contributed in terms of improving the company's contribution towards social responsibility. The kind of good practices which are promoted by the companies can be displayed through advertising, and advertising basically mirrors the society in terms where it gives a kind of a reflection of the basic issues and values related to its impact. Now, advertising ethics related to children ad become important. This is the most controversial aspect of advertising. Now, when we cater to the kid market or the child market, it is genuinely important to regulate this kind of advertising in quality terms, because the child is genuinely immature to genuinely judge what is right and wrong. One of the most controversial issues of the industry relates to the child market. The children are unable to evaluate advertising messages and make purchasing decisions. So, the ads have to be simple and genuinely they have to relate to the value-based purchasing power of the students. The advertising ethics also lead to the kind of the misleading claims, like you lose a weight within 5 days or 5 weeks is a kind of a misleading claim by any health related product or any kind of a health clinic. The advertising also relates to the kind of the controversial products which are related to the kind of drugs or cigarettes or to the sex related products generally are not promoted into the society. So, when you try to take this advertisement, you have to think before you take these products to the media, because the kind of the image you have to create for the company has to relate to the goodness of the society. Now, determining what is ethical and what is non-ethical is a kind of a social behavior. The social ethic is a kind of a golden rule. Social responsibility is important in terms where you try to motivate the business in terms to create a positive impact on the society. The professional ethics is important because this is what the industry wants. The industry has a kind of a code of ethical behavior that identifies how the profession should respond to a particular change in the society. Then you have the personal ethics. The personal ethics basically relate to the personal judgment power, and it is the moral reasoning of the people in terms to judge what is right and what is wrong. Advertising professionals must be aware of the industry standards as well as of the ethical questions. So this is the most powerful story of the society in terms which reflects the kind of the basic dreams, the aspirations and the kinds of the feelings related to the people. The advertising story has to create a society which is utopian in concept, a society which is happy, a society which aspires for beautiful products, a society where the enhancement in terms of the standard of living has to be increased. Poverty, suffering, hatred generally has to be avoided because we dream for a concept where we give goodness to the world. People have to consume products in order so that they can grow intellectually, emotionally and in a rhythmic way. People in the advertising society have to be created and generally have to be portrayed in a kind of a sense where they are not self-centered, but they give a kind of a helpful attitude to the people, a contribution to the world, creating a network and contributing in terms to the environmental issues, and looking after children and to the senior citizens is important in terms where you portray the story of the society in a beautiful way. The story of the society has to be related to the kind of the personal freedom of the people. It is the kind of the work ethics related where work becomes worship. It is the kind of the goodness and a kind of a faith created in religion and God. The cultural issues, the language issues and the value issues, everything has to be related in terms to create a kind of emotional bonding with the people. All religion have to be respected and a kind of a bonding has to be there. The diversity issue of the society has to be catered in a sensitive way where you try to unite all the people in a kind of a basis where it creates a kind of a national bonding. The feelings like equality, peace, obeying laws becomes important. This has to be promoted by advertising. Paying your taxes, looking after public utilities, looking after environment and then not allowing people to indulge in unfair practices is important, and this story has to be reflected by advertising. We have to improve the minds of people through advertising. It has to generally cater to the kind of the impact where the kind of the idleness has to be genuinely negated in terms where the impact of idle people create a kind of a negative impact of the society has to be portrayed. Wise men are important and they obey the kind of the work ethics in terms where they contribute towards the contribution towards music, literature and arts. So money cannot be everything, but it is the kind of the values which grow the society. It is the ideas which give a shape to the vision of the people, and the kind of the ethics and devotions related to the pleasures of the society will create a kind of an impact where you sell the products through the ideas which create a kind of a positive impact. Now let's see this model in which we have related advertising to promotion. The advertising as a force of promotion impacts the society. First is we argue in both positive way and negative way. This model shows that advertising and promotion basically creates a positive impact where it provides information about the product. It encourages a higher standard of living. It creates job and helps the new firms to enter to the market, and it promotes competition in the marketplace. But the critics of advertisement also play an important role where they say the promotion and advertising basically creates needs and wants among the consumers. So this is a kind where you enhance the kind of the basic demand from the product in a compulsive way. It is more than propaganda. It is not information giving force. So you are trying to publicize the product. It promotes materialism, insecurity and greediness of the people. So these are the negative aspects where the advertising reflects these values of the societies also. But in any case, advertising also builds up the knowledge for the people. Now ethics in advertising and promotion also relate to the kind of the principles where we govern a kind of a set of standards which reflects a positive behavior. Here is the model. Ethics is the kind of the moral principles and values that govern the actions of the individuals and the groups. Not all issues can be regulated by law. A marketing or promotion action may be legal, but it cannot be ethical. Marketers must make decisions regarding the appropriateness of the actions of the people. So this is kind of some issues which genuinely impact the society, because even if it is legal, sometimes it cannot be ethical. The issues are very sensitive, related to the human feelings. It could be the negative feelings which are portrayed by the advertisement, like hatred, jealousy, where the law is not defining these feelings, but genuinely you have to define and judge the kind of the attributions and the weight which you create in the society by giving respect to all religions. Now, advertising and promotion could be untruthful or it could be deceptive also. The impact is genuinely a kind of mistrust that is created in the society. We have shown you in this model. Among the consumers, many do not perceive ads as honest and believable. It abuses involving sales promotions such as contest, premiums, offers. This is more of a abusing program. Unethical and deceptive practices involving mail order, telemarketing and other forms of direct marketing genuinely confuse customers. So these are the basic issues. The internet scams and abuses oftenly genuinely offends people. So this is the kind of the taste which is reflected sometimes in the society, which is not required in terms to promote the society in a positive way. Advertising as bad and offensive can kill the societal values. It could be the objections to the advertisement in terms where certain products are not desirable, like cigarettes or something else like drugs. Use of sexual appeals, use of shocking ads is generally not desirable. Advertising and children basically is an important issue relating to the society. Children between the ages of 2 to 11 watch an average of 21.5 hours of TV per week and may see 22,000 commercials per year. Television is an important source of information for children about products. So you have to genuinely guide the issues related to the child market, where the sensitive minds have to be groomed in such a way that they are inculcated with the faith and the value systems of the society. The perspectives of advertising to children relate to the kind. The consumers advocate that children are vulnerable to advertising practices because they lack the knowledge and skills to critically evaluate the kind of the advertising claims. They cannot differentiate between programs and commercials, while marketers argue that children must learn through the socialization process and they need to acquire the skills to function in the marketplace. So both could be right at their own place, but then generally you have to balance a kind of a basic quality in terms where the advertisement to the child market has to be simple and it has to be value based in terms where the skills of the children are generally upgraded in such a way that their intellectual and their basic appeals related to life in terms of inculcating higher standards related to skill upgradation is required. The social and the cultural consequences of advertisement also play an important part. Now, does advertising make people to buy things? And if they, what is the impact? Does advertising encourages materialism, or is advertising just a reflection of society? These are the issues which have to be thought. It creates a kind of an impact where material goods become important and people are respected only for material possessions, like if you have car, if you have house, good flat, good system of genuinely having a good lifestyle basically reflects the status of the people. But then people are not judged by the possessions of good, but the kind of the intellectual and a kind of a pure heart, and a kind of a heart which genuinely helps people is important for the society. So we have to genuinely listen to those issues also to the society when we design and carry the ads to the market. Advertising and stereotyping also creates an impact in terms where this issue also becomes important. Criticisms of advertising with regard to stereotyping is like portrayal of women to reflect their changing role in the society, where women is genuinely reflected as a liberalized force changing the society. The portrayal of women as a sex object, where the kind of the sex appeal of women is taken to the market to sell everything. Ethnic stereotyping represented as minorities, where the minority groups are shown as the kind of people who are ignored in the society. Portrayal of the elderly people, and then gender stereotyping. So these could be the impacts which have to be thought in a kind of a judgmental way, where woman has to be considered as a force, not to sell objects, but as a force who can look after the house and can groom up the society and can contribute to the workforce. Generally, gender stereotyping, where the functions of the male and female are decided, and the kind of the stereotyping of the roles is not important for the society. Both the genders can look after the home, both the genders can work in the offices. Generally, we have to create an impact because the gender roles define the kind of the social issues related to the society, and both the genders are equal and contribute to the growth of the society. Now let's see what is your opinion about this woman shown in the ad. Is this woman portrayed as a sex object, or does this ad contain the cues related to sexuality in terms of suggestive actions? Does this ad represents an image of sexual submissiveness? So you have to think before you take the ad to the market, how woman is portrayed, a kind of appeal behind the kind of the intellectual domains of making women a kind of a creative object to create work and ethics for the society is important. It's not only the sex appeal which can sell women in the market, it is much more beyond the contribution of women taken as a force to revolutionize the society in a better way. Do advertisers control media? See this model. Advertising is the primary source of revenue for newspapers, magazines, television and radio networks. The media's dependence on advertising for revenue makes them vulnerable to control by advertisers. Advertisers may control over the media by biasing editorial content, limiting coverage of certain issues and influencing the program content. So advertising is a powerful force generally that regulates the media also, because they have got a lot of money power associated. So the media is generally regulated by the kind of the reflection which they give. The kind of the editorial, the kind of the values, the norms are created by the publishers. So it is important that advertising agencies reflect good values to the societies. Now, how do advertisers control the media, or what is important in terms that they should look after? See this model. They must report the news fairly and accurately to the public. That is, certain things which are generally unfair should be reported to the public. Advertisers need the media more than the media needs advertising. The media maintain a kind of a basic issue where they have to look after to the society. They have to report the kind of issues related to the society in a fair way. The kind of hiding or the kind of the ethical or deceptive kind of the behavior is important in terms. The kind of the deceptive behavior which is reflected by the advertisers should be controlled by media. Role of advertising is important in the economy. Advertising is related to business. Now, how advertising supports economy? See this model. It makes consumer aware of the products and services. It provides consumers with the information to use the product in terms where the purchase decisions are related to the product. It encourages the consumption and the fostering of the economic growth. The economic impact of advertising on society reflects that consumers have a choice. They understand about differentiation of product. They genuinely relate themselves to the brand loyalty, and it has a kind of an impact on competition, where barriers to entry or economies of scales are also regulated by advertising. Effects on products and cost and prices also regulated by advertising, because advertising is an expensive business that increases the cost of the products, and sometimes it increases the differentiation related to the product. But in any case where we argue that advertising is important or is not important for society is an ongoing kind of a basic criticism, where we have to regulate the kind of the issues which create a kind of a basic decision on the society to accept advertising as a force to regulate society in a better way. But whether it is positive or negative way, we have to balance the issues, balancing in terms where the kind of the social and the kind of the moral pressures on the advertisers have to genuinely convince them in such a way that they look to society as a kind of a basic value system which has to be regulated, because it is from the society that the advertisers get money. It is the society from which they get the revenues. So if you look after to the society in terms where the social responsibility becomes a primary duty for the companies, then both the companies and the people can grow in a positive way. It must be said that without advertising, you would have a kind of a nation which would be far different, and one that would be much poorer in terms of material commodities. So advertising basically gives life to the nation. It creates an impact in terms where it promotes products and businesses and ideas in a revolutionary way. Advertising basically educates the consumers. It creates information. Advertising is basically a kind of a force that improves the life standards of the people. It affects the happiness and the well-being of the people. It creates the need. It promotes materialism. it is a kind of a liberating force. It genuinely gives you values, it gives you kind of sensitive information, and sometimes it could be offensive, but the kind of the liberative attitude which you creates an impact in a positive way. Advertising has a powerful effect on media. Ads foster diverse and affordable mass media that provide information and exposure to important issues. You would have been not exposed to newspaper at a low cost if advertising was not there. The advertising supports the total media system, where at a low cost the information is given to the people. So advertising basically is related to the ethical standards, where the moral standards are a way to regulate the behavior. The key areas have to be judged in such a way that truth in advertising is important, advertising to children is important, advertisement of controversial product is important. So these issues genuinely have to be regulated, otherwise advertising would cater to the kind of the important issues related to the society. Then advertising basically as a regulating force also regulates the unfair practices into the society. That is, you have to judge the issues in terms where it creates a kind of an impact where the representation or the omission of issues which could be misleading for the society could be avoided. Then advertising in terms is also regulated by the government. We have the agencies like the Federal Trade Commission, then you have the Federal Communication Commission, you have the Food and Drug Administration and the Postal Service Department, which genuinely controls the basic issues and the ethics related to these aspects or these products which are floated into the market. The kind of the basic association of the advertisement to the kind of the impact of technology is also important. It has created a world of e-commerce. E-commerce with telemarketing, with internet marketing and the kind of advertising through websites has also become important. Sales promotion in terms through IT has generally enhanced the public relations of the companies with the public. The basic issues related to the digital brand advertising relate to the kind that online advertising has also become important for society. Online advertising sells in the society. Targeting has increased, effectiveness and efficiency has increased. Large format suitable for kind of creating a branding image has become possible. Optimal contact with the customers has become important. Then you have the online video ads. They are very effective in attracting people. Then you have search and display options related to the kind of the TV commercials. You have the click rates, which generally measure the kind of the effectiveness of the reach value of the basic advertisements. A higher online share distinctly increases the kind of the anchoring of the products by giving its benefits, and a higher online share increases the product interest and the willingness to buy through online shopping websites. So we have the kind of the impact which is generally digital in terms where we are connected to a world in a global market. Advertising tries to give the information about the various products which are not manufactured in your own country, but it generally gives the information about many products which are available all over the world. The cross-cultural connection of communities has become possible through advertisement. The cross-cultural communication process binds people together. Let's see this challenge in terms of where this challenge is created by this model. We have the center in terms of culture 1, encoding in culture 1, then it is the message and the medium, then it is decoding in culture 2 and receiving in culture 2. There could be a barrier of noise and a feedback which is created in terms of response. The main challenge of working with cross-cultural communication is the fact that we are dealing with a message encoded in one culture and decoded in another cultures. So we see advertising as a force which binds many cultures together. Culture 1 and culture 2 are bound together by this force of communication. Each culture brings different sets of knowledge, feelings, language and ideas. So it is a beautiful force connecting countries across the world, creating a kind of a basic acceptance of different cultures. And we are in a kind of a modern cultural society where the kind of the acceptance of the all religion, the acceptance of all languages has become important. Now the kind of the basic globalization force that impacts advertising is shown in this model. The expression of culture is in terms of values, in terms of rituals, heroes, symbols becoming accepted all over the world. So advertising is a beautiful force impacting the society, but then genuinely we have to regulate it where the kind of the stereotyping or the kind of the negative impact comes. The advertisers and the publishers have to genuinely think about issues which create a negative impact. I hope the students must have understood the impact of advertising on society. both in a positive way and in a negative way. So it is our duty to regulate the negative issues and try to enhance the growth of the positive issues on this society. Thank you, students.